Hey everyone! Before we start, I just want to talk about Nautilus runes and items. And the first item that I would go for is Winter's Approach. Naut is one of the few champions that could utilize this item efficiently because it gives us HP, which allows us to become more tankier, max mana, which makes us be able to use our skills more, ability haste, which lowers the cooldown of our skills, as well as bonus health depending on how much mana we have, and once evolved into Fumble Winter, it gives us a shield when we use our crowd control abilities, which Nautilus could easily do. Then we go for the Sunfire Aegis, which gives us more HP, ability haste, as well as damage, which allows us to not only be a tank, we also have a lot of DPS in our kit. Next item that we go for is Steel-Plated Stoneplate, another great item for Nautilus. You could go for the Mercury Threads if they have a lot of crowd control. Stoneplate allows us to become even more tankier with the Fumble Winter Shield, Gargoyle Stoneplate Shield, as well as our second skill Shield. But if you think that they're not focusing you as much, another item that you could go for is the Magnetron, which allows you to protect your team as well as tank the enemy carries. Then the next item depends on the opponents. If they have a lot of AD, you could go for the Randuin's Omen, especially if they're crit based to reduce their damage. If they're AP, you could go for the Abyssal Mask to make you more tanky against magic damage. Or if you need more damage, you could go for the Iceborne to make yourself more threatening in team fights. Last item is also a flex depending on what they have. If they have a lot of lifesteal, you could go for the Thornmail. If you would want more HP, Warmogs is a very good item as well, since the damage of Sunfire scales on HP as well as your second skill scales on your HP, giving you even more shields. Then we go to the runes. The first rune that I would go for is Aftershock. Really good rune on Nautilus. We could easily proc this with just using an auto attack. Next rune that we go for is Weakness, another solid rune for Nautilus. We could crowd control the whole enemy team, allowing us and our team to deal more damage. Then the next one would be Hunter Titan, another solid rune which allows us to get more HP as well as reduce incoming crowd control. Then the last rune that I would go for is Pathfinder. This makes our roams a lot stronger as well as our ganks more efficient. Move speed is important, especially when ganking. So that is it for Nautilus runes and items, and I will see you guys in game.
Giveaway winners of week number 4.
Going into the game, this is where I will show you why Nautilus is strong right now and how he could be used efficiently as a jungler. In this matchup, we're currently up against Vi, and in the Nautilus vs my matchup, this is favorable towards the Vi because she has stronger duel potential than us. But once it gets to the team fights, it would be a toss-up 50-50 who would be able to get a better engage as well as soak more damage. So what we want to do in this matchup is try to avoid Vi as much as possible and try to focus our efforts on ganking instead. So the clear that I do here is the red side clear where I go for my red, golem, raptor, then flex depending on what would happen on the map. When clearing your jungle, you would always want to do auto attack plus second skill. The reason why is that your second skill has an auto attack cancel animation. So when you want to clear your camps or even team fights, you always want to use that first auto attack before using that second skill. That way, it would make your clears more efficient and make your damage output higher overall. So after clearing my red buff, I go to my golems. I use my second skill instead of going for the hook because this allows us to clear the junk camps faster. But if you would want to go for a level 2 gank, you could go for the first skill in order to make to do some cheese ganks. For example, I want to gank the Garen lane. After taking the red, I immediately go bot, use my hook, crowd control the Garen, and get the first blood. But since I didn't see any potential cheese, I decided to go for a standard clear, and Nautilus clear is not that bad ever since the recent buffs on his second skill. His scuttler timing is perfect at the 123 mark, and he would be on time on the scuttler. So once I see Vi going at the bot side, I decide against it and I go to the top side instead. As I said a while ago, I would want to avoid the matches as much as possible. Luckily, Fiora was able to solo kill the Garen as well as dodge the gank, which makes things a lot easier for us and allows us to be able to farm more freely. Because when you want to use Nautilus, you always want to avoid the enemy jungler unless you're massively ahead, since your specialty is soaking damage as well as ganking lanes that have no jungler. Because Nautilus has one of the strongest ganks in the game, since his kit is overloaded with crowd control. I think Nautilus has the most crowd control in the game right now, with the first skill, passive, third skill, ulti, and even if you go, even a blue smite has crowd control. So you'd be able to proc your Fimbulwinter really easily. So here I see that the Orianna's overextended. I flash in, try to get an auto attack to crowd control the opponent. Use a hook there as well, and Vi shows up. We dodge the first kill. TF shows up as well. We crowd control the Vi, so you always want to soak damage and apply crowd control on the opponents with the use of our passive and our third skill. So I see Galio use that ultimate. My ultimate is up as well. Galio flashes in, misses the taunt. Senna does a great third skill, allowing us to be able to escape any possible problems. So Vi overextend. So I immediately use my first skill plus ulti to not allow Vi to use any skill. I knew that Vi was going to try to get some pickoffs because she was level 5 as well at the same time where I was level 5, and we both have our ultimates. So we do a great read there. We counter Vi, we get a kill, and I go back to the jungle instead of going back because after the wolf camp, I would be able to complete my Winter's approach, which is good because it allows me to stack to my Fimbulwinter in a much earlier, in a much faster pace. So once I buy my Winter's approach, I go back to my jungle, and when you have this item, you could just spam your hooks, since if your hook hits a terrain, the cooldown of the hook would be lowered, and that is why I always want to use my hook when going through the jungle because it allows me to be more mobile. So with Pathfinder plus my hooks, this is really good for us. And doing my second auto cancel again, clearing the red buff. So once you're level 5, you would always want to look for a gank when your ulti is up. So now my ulti is up. I see that Scott is there. Vi tries to look for the contest. I'm quite tanky. I have my first item. Fiora tries to focus out the Garen. We force the Garen flash. I have my hook. Now I crowd control the Vi. I don't allow her to move. She flashes out. Fiora tries to greed a bit. Vi has her ultimate. Gets punished. Galio was there as well. And since I'm only a tank and I don't have much damage, I tried to fight back because I saw Twisted Fate ulti, just in case he would want to port in, but he decided against it, so I just went back instead. So this is one of the problem with Nautilus, is that even though he has a lot of crowd control, he lacks a bit of damage, and that is why I'm going for a Sunfire second item, which allows me to have more DPS in team fights. So after clearing my golem, the objectives would spawn. I go back, buy my boots, and look for possible catches on the opponent. So while going back to the lane, always use your first skill on the terrain. This lowers the... I think if you hook a terrain, it lowers it by 3, which is really good. And it only works on the terrain. If you hook a champion, it would still be the same cooldown. So instead of starting the dragon, my dragon is quite low. So what I do instead is try to catch the opponents trying to go for the dragon. I hook onto the Vi, bring Rakan low, we crowd control all of the targets, tank the opponents, immediately flash out when we're low, and that was really good for us because we were able to chunk down the support as well as take down their Galio. So while taking the objective, this is another weakness that Nautilus has. He doesn't have the best objective take, so this would be almost a 50-50 if Vi would be able to time it well. Great Tristana ulti to knock Vi away, and which makes us easily secure the dragon. Fiora tries to greed top. I go help her. We hook the Rakan. Don't allow him to move with all of our slows. Once I see the Galio, I immediately go back. Unfortunately, Garen was able to take down our bot tower. I think he has Hull Breaker. So what I do here is I try to go for the top gank instead. Once Tristana jumps, I hook on the ledge. But when I saw Galio, I just decided to go back because we would not be able to dive the Ori. If Ori was by herself, I would have just forced the ulti, force a tower dive, and get the kill. But since Galio was there, I had to go back. So Fiora was able to take out down their Garen, and with Herald still up, this is really good for us to try and take it because it would be a 4v5. And Galio decides to go in, gets a taunt, is out of position. I see that they're low, so even though my objective taking is not the best, we go and secure the Rift Herald. So great start for us. We're able to stack our Winter's approach nicely at 500 stacks at 7 minutes, which is really fast for us. And once we're able to complete the Fimbulwinter, this would make us super tanky and gives us multiple shield, especially when I'm able to complete my stone plate. So here, I try to ulti the Rakan, but he dodges a bit. We tried to take down the Ori. She lives with 1 HP. I should have just ulted the Ori instead. So I had to kite. First skill, third skill. Try to go away. But Galio hits me with a taunt and we get punished for it. So very unfortunate happenings. But it happens. Even though we're taken down, look what we're able to get on the map. We're able to get bot and top tower, which is an even trade. Allows us to have more pressure on the map. So unfortunate, if I had a bit of a better coordination with Twisted Fate, we could have been able to take down the Ori, but it happens and it's okay since we're just a tank. We just want our carries, which is the Fiora and Tristana, to get more gold. So now, since there's no fight, this is the best chance for us to farm. And as I said earlier, now I have my Gargoyle Stone Plate. I've also evolved my Winter's Approach. And this is our tank power spike. And the point where we're gonna be very tanky in team fights. So I decided to go to top, but I thought there was someone gonna defend. They just gave it for free, and I go back to my jungle and clear the blue buff. So another thing that's good about Winter's Approach is that if you don't build this item, you would always go out of mana really quickly when playing Nautilus. But when you have this item, you could just spam your third skill since it's quite a low cooldown. So if you saw a while ago, another tip on Nautilus is that when you're escaping, you always want to look the ledge, and you could use your third skill before the hook hits, or lands rather, to be able to slow the opponents while you're running away. So Vi goes for the Fiora. I missed my hook. It was good because we forced the Galio ultimate. My team is not yet in position. Twisted Fate uses the ultimate. I wanted to get that hook onto the Rakan. Unfortunately, it was not in range. So what we want to do here is to try and defend the tower. We're 3 people strong, and I could tank the opponents just in case they want to dive. So they try and go for the dive. Rakan does a great combo onto our Senna. Our Twisted Fate is not responding. I hooked the Vi. I wanted to use my Stone Plate, but I was perma crowd control. So unfortunate. At least I was able to take down their Galio. Overall, pretty bad trade for us. I think it was a tower plus 2 kills for 1 kill. Tristana decides to go in as well. Tries to catch the Rakan but misses the auto attack. Wasn't able to get the reset and gets taken down as well, which makes things really bad. And Twisted Fate was AFK just farming the lanes. I was expecting him to try and help our lane, but it happened. Solo queue things. And the biggest problem with tanks is that they don't have much damage as compared if you're using a carry champions. So you need the coordination of your team to be able to pull out some nice plays. But don't let overall, I think this is still winnable because our late game is still strong. So what I'm doing now is just waiting for the next objective to spawn, which is in 15 seconds. Then we could go for some catches or some plays. So with Nautilus, you could always go in the front. You have a lot of crowd control. If someone face checks, you could crowd control them for days, or allowing your team to be able to burst them. So Infernal Dragon is up. I'm trying to look for their position, trying to look for someone to hook, but I don't see anybody. So I start it instead. Once I see the Garen, I try to position myself. Rakan with a great flank gets a 4-man knockup, forcing flashes. I had a great ultimate as well, but my team was already out of position. We were already caught. So that was a good play for them. Fiora tries to get some kills in the backline. She takes down the Orianna. But it's 4v1, which is not ideal for her. She gets crowd control to death, and they get an ace. So things are looking bad. That was good on their part, and this is how strong Ocean Dragon could be also, because this makes a lot of blind spots. And Rakan was able to do that because there was a bush right beside the Ocean Dragon, and if it was another dragon, he would be able to come up with that play, and things would have been a lot better for us. So things happen. So what we need to do is just regroup, try to look for some small wins. I had to give the Herald because we were out of position, and scale into the late game. Since all of my teammates have a lot of DPS, I'm just playing the role of the tank, because we don't have any front line. So my job is to try to crowd control the opponents as much as possible and to soak as much damage as well. So clearing my red, trying to look for some farm. I see that Fiora's clearing the golem, so I gave it to her, and I complete my Sunfire. So Sunfire is another great power spike for Nautilus, because not only does it give us more HP, it also gives us sustainable damage in team fights. So if we combine it with our second skill, if we're able to hit freely in fights, the Sunfire stacks would just go higher and higher, and we would be able to hurt the opponents. So with our Fumble Winter, Sunfire, and Stone Plate, not only are we tanky, we also have some damage as well. And once we build more HP, Sunfire scales with HP as well as our second skill, we would have more damage as well as bigger shields. So a fight here happens, I immediately go for the ulti, we try to take down the Vi. Another good tip is Q Flash, something that you could go to Nautilus to easily crowd control the opponents. And what I'm doing here is I'm hitting them one by one to be able to crowd control all of them, to apply crowd control to the opposing enemy team. So if you hit someone once and they're not yet low, you just go and look for another target to crowd control, and you would want to focus the targets that your teammates are focusing on, because you have the weakness rune, which allows you to have which allows your team to have more damage on a certain opponent. So you always want to crowd control whatever your team is focusing on. And good thanks to that, we're able to get a free Baron, which allows us to get back into the game. Twisted Fate wasn't even there in the entire clash, but it's okay because we were able to win out in the end. So the next item that I'm building here is Abyssal Mask. Usually, I would go for either Randuin's or even Iceborne, because Iceborne stacks well with the Winter's Approach, giving us more mana, which allows us to have more HP as well because of the Fumble Winter passive. So the reason why I went Abyssal Mask, because if you look at their lineup, they don't have any ADC. They have AP Orianna, AP Galio, and those two are AP based. So we have to build Magic Resist. So it could either be Force of Nature or Abyssal Mask. But I chose the Abyssal Mask instead because it allows us to have more DPS in the fights. Imagine Abyssal Mask increases magic damage taken, and we have Sunfire plus our third skill, second skill. It allows our damage to be a lot higher than it should be. Okay? So since I know Vi was gonna die, I go for the top instead. Unfortunately, Vi was able to TP. I think she had the Herald Recall, allowing her TPs to be a lot faster. But it's okay because now what I'm doing right now is split pushing, trying to take down their towers. Once Garen shows up, I know that he doesn't have much damage. So I go focus up the tower. I used my ultimate, get a 2-man knockup. And once Galio ulti comes in, I had my Winter's Approach plus Stone Plate. Unfortunately, when the enemy Garen is on the table, no matter how tanky you are, once you reach half HP, his ulti would just be able to melt you, because since Garen's ultimate is true damage. So that is one of the biggest counters to tanks like Nautilus, true damage. Because no matter how much armor we build, they would have a lot of their skills or their damage would go through. Okay? So unfortunate that with the Baron we were not able to get enough. I expected to get at least one inhibitor, but the opponents were able to get good plays and make picks to our carries, not allowing us to be able to push as easily. So I'm building double Magic Resist because most of their damage are Magic Resist. Since they have Galio, Orianna, Rakan, their only AD would possibly be Vi and Garen, which is not that threatening as compared to what their major carries are. So now that the dragon is up, I'm telling my team to start this objective. I see that Rakan and Garen are back. In case the opponent comes, it would be a 3v5 in our favor. So I take out the ward first. Twisted Fate uses the ultimate. Vi has Edge of Night. That's why we weren't able to see her. Luckily, she just chose to go away, and we're able to get a free mountain. And with Mountain Dragon is one of the best dragons that you can get with tanks, because it scales with your armor and magic resist. So the more armor, magic resist you get, the stronger the buff of Mountain Dragon will be. So Galio decides to defend the tower. We go for the punish. Orianna gets a 3-man ultimate, but it doesn't matter. We get a great hook onto the Ori. We look for more targets to crowd control. So I would want to tank the tower as much as possible, but I saw Vi out of position as well. We force her ultimate. I try to tank the tower to allow my team to go in, but I think Fiora is tanking the tower instead. She gets punished for it, so I had to go back and regen, because Tristana and Fiora, the two main damage dealers, are down. Even though Orianna Galleon is down as well, we wouldn't be able to push the tower. So what I do instead is just go for their blue buff, try to deny some CS. Twisted Fate does some hooks, does some stuns, so I follow up with my hook. I have my ulti as well. We try to take down the Vi. She had her Stone Plate plus Rakan Shields, making her very tanky. But with our auto attack, second skill, third skill, we're just spamming all of our skills in order to dish out as much crowd control and damage as possible. Galio ult, Orianna ult, I'm catching everything right now. I still have Stone Plate. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to press it on time, and we get taken down. But overall, I think it was a 3-for-3 exchange, which is okay, which is decent, because we still have a very strong scaling composition. So at this time, Elder would be spawning at the 20-minute mark, which is 2 minutes from now. And I'm completing my next item, which most likely would be Force of Nature. So the next thing that what you want to do when you play Nautilus at this stage of the game is, number one, try to pick off targets with using your first skill plus ulti. If you use the first skill plus ulti, they wouldn't be able to use their summer spells, which is the flash or any dashes, and immediately burst them down. So once the opponent spawn, I'm checking on what I could do. So what I'm thinking about is trying to ward the Baron and try to bait the opponents to go in, because they don't have a I think they don't have a front line that would be able to withstand our burst. So Dragon is spawning soon as well. I'm using my first skill to traverse over the map. Since they have a ward there, we take it out, and what we're doing now is trying to make some catches. I thought Rakan was there, but I missed my hook, unfortunately. So what I am doing now is trying to wait for them to face check. Orianna does a great job with the first skill in order to get more vision. Vi with a great gank as well. Actually, instead of me flanking, their Vi was able to flank with the Galio ult, catching us off guard. Our ADCs are down. Orianna is really low, but Rakan is doing a great job protecting her. So I have no choice. Instead, I had to hit the Rakan and try to go for the Ori once she's in range. Another dodged hook, another block by Rakan. And here, I missed my hook. Very crucial. I would have been able to take down their Ori. Garen goes for the ultimate, and Ori has her ultimate as well. So Garen with the backup. Fiora also with the backup. She's able to get 2 kills, and she still has ultimate. Garen has no more ultimate. Easily gets the ultimate proc and gets 3k, which is good for us because that's what we needed in order to try and win the game. Because if we play defensively all day, we think things might get hard, and mistakes are there's a higher chance of making some mistakes. So Fiora has good waves. Bot plus top are pushing. I think what she wants to do is try and get the mid tower before going back. Now that Vi and Galio are both up, she opts for the top tower instead because there's more tanks. But Vi and Galio with a great intercept takes down our Fiora. Even with the Senna ulti, it's not enough. Force our Twisted Fate to teleport back because in a 4v5 going in a 4v5 situation is not the best idea. So now that Elder is up, what I want to do is try and pick up some targets while waiting for Fiora to survive. Twisted Fate has a gold card. Unfortunately, he walked out of the bush. That's why the opponents were able to see him. I used my ultimate on the Orianna to try and knock up some targets and just go and disengage. So while we're buying time for Fiora to resurrect, we're just doing some pokes on the enemy. So one tip when using Nautilus ulti, you would always want to ulti the farthest target because your ultimate is a line and would be able to CC all of the targets in between. So here the opponents do a hard fight. We take down the Vi with our hook. Orianna's really low. Our ulti is up again. We tank a lot of damage. Orianna ultimate. The moment Garen ultimates, great timing on our Stone Plate as well, denying Garen's ultimate. And with the Fumble Winter plus second skill, we get a ton of shield. Very good clash for us. And this is where we could end it, probably. because they only have one member left. Oriana's in the left side of the map, uses the TP. I farm my HP, I get my HP back, and we don't care about Ori. I just use my ultimate just to try and deny her from taking me down, and that is it. That's a very nice game. Even though we weren't able to get a lot of kills, we were able to live up to our role, our expectation, which is to buy time for our team, especially in that last clash. If I didn't have Sunfire plus Abyssal there, my damage would have been a lot lower. So nevertheless, we get MVP, most damage taken, quite high damage. We even have more damage than Tristana. And I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out. Ciao, ciao.